Wasabi guys, Void here coming back at you with another video. This time we're going to be talking about some badass vampires from Ixalan, or Ixalan, or however the hell you say it. It was originally at Lazan, but then they decided to change it to something completely different. So in case you haven't noticed, I haven't been reporting on the spoilers for Ixalan, mainly because I felt that with all the drama earlier this summer, with all the leaks and that little controversy there, I just didn't really feel comfortable doing any spoilers for this set specifically, just because of all that drama, and I didn't like it. It wouldn't be interesting to me to spoil a set that a lot of people already know. You know, there's dinosaurs, pirates, all this, and we already know a lot of the cards from the set. In the last week or so that we've been getting all of these spoilers, a lot has changed. A lot has definitely changed, and I think one of the biggest surprises here is with these flip cards that I don't think anybody predicted, that all these cards can transform into lands. Very cool. You have the enchantment that can transform into like a Gaia's Cradle. But one of the biggest things keeping my hopes alive for this set was the fact that we were supposed to be getting some more white vampires. This was very necessary because we just got the Mardu vampire deck, and having a Mardu deck where the majority of your cards are going to be mono black, because that's just the way vampires are. They're primarily black. There were more red cards involved, but I just feel like there's very little of a presence when it comes to white in vampires. Definitely needed to have some sort of white vampire presence, and man, they weren't fucking around. We got a ton of white vampire support, not just a couple cards. I thought it was just going to be one or two. No, we got at least 6 or 7 cards, and they're all pretty decent. This isn't going to be all of the vampire cards. We obviously have other ones, but I feel that they might see limited play. You have like the Squadron Hawk version of a vampire, which is and you have like a 2/2 for 2 that's just an average bear. So I don't really care about the smaller vampires that are likely going to see limited play at best. A lot of the cards here are just going to be either playable in Standard or Commander. So let's get it started off here. We have Legion's Landing, a 1-mana enchantment. When it enters the battlefield, you create a 1/1 white vampire token with lifelink. And whenever you attack with 3 or more creatures, it doesn't have to be vampires, which is a good thing, but whenever you attack with 3 or more creatures, you get to transform it, and it transforms into Adanto the First Fort, which is essentially a land that can tap for white mana, and you can pay 3 mana to tap it and create a 1/1 white vampire with lifelink. Very similar to like a Care Keep in its land form. Nothing super special. It does tap for white mana, so that's interesting. But yeah, I think it's more or less just going to be a standard card. I don't see it as being a big deal in like a Mardu vampire deck. I think it might be like a little added something to that deck, but it's not super aggro. It doesn't really give you any super advantage other than the ability to print out a 1/1 token every turn, and that's if you hold up 3 mana, so that's average at best. Then we have Blood-Crazed Paladin, 2 mana mono black vampire that you can flash into play. It gets +1/+1 counters equal to the number of creatures that died that turn, so you could obviously wait for something like an Hour of Devastation in Standard to kill all those creatures, and then you flash it into play and get a ton of +1/+1 counters, hopefully. That's the ideal situation. However, in Standard, usually when cards are situationally good, especially when it's demanding on something like a board wipe, I mean, even if it's just 2 or 3 creatures, getting +1/+1 counters on a 1/1, it has to be a big enough deal in order to justify having this in my deck. So I think it's more or less going to be a good card in Commander, because situationally better cards are usually Commander cards. I just don't really think it's going to have that much of an impact in Standard though. Then we have Bishop of the Bloodstain, which is just a hilarious name for a card. When it enters the battlefield, you basically have a target opponent lose life equal to the number of vampires you control. So the automatic comparison is to the other vampire that does a very similar thing. I think it's like a witch, but essentially whenever she enters the battlefield, I think it's each opponent loses life equal to the number of vampires you control, and then you gain life equal to the life lost. So there's a significant difference there. She's a lot more viable in Commander. I do, however, want to draw the comparison to Grave Merchant of Asphodel, also a 5-mana creature. Significant power whenever you can drop a creature into play and force your opponent to lose life. The thing though is that Gary worked with Devotion. This works with total number of vampires, which is a lot easier to account for with tokens. I could definitely see this as a small win con in a black-white vampire deck in Standard. I definitely think it's a viable option. Do I think it's an automatic 4 of? Who knows? I definitely like it. I think it's also consideration for Commander, although I do think that the other vampire is likely going to be a better option in Commander. Then we have Bishop of Rebirth, one of these spoiled promo cards. Basically a 5-mana Sun Titan. It's only for creatures, but it is only 5 mana, so I definitely like it in Commander. It's automatically going to be one of the cards that you would want to throw into a Mardu vampire deck because of that utility to bring creatures back from the graveyard. And there's a lot of small vampires like a Stromkirk Captain or a Blood Artist, you know, little vampires that are so good, and you can just bring them back. I do like it in Standard, though. I think it's definitely a good option in Standard to bring back smaller creatures, and there's a ton of them in Standard, so why not? Then we have Mavin, Feign, Dusk Apostle. This one's kind of a head scratcher for me personally. Not because it's rather just weak or anything like that. It's more or less just because it's legendary. I don't understand why they needed to make it legendary. They usually make cards legendary for one reason or another. And when it comes to creatures, it's because they can be commander options, or in Standard, it's because they can be too powerful if you have more than one of these. So I just don't think that when I see Mavin Feign, because whenever one or more vampires you control attacks, you get to put a 1/1 vampire with lifelink onto the battlefield, which is average. I mean, it's significantly worse than, say, something like a Burmaz, King of Oreskos, where each time you attacked, you got a token attacking too. This just gets you that token, and it itself doesn't have any other keywords. It doesn't have First Strike. It doesn't have lifelink. You're going to be hard-pressed to tell me that if you had 2 of these out at the same time and it wasn't legendary, that it was going to be a big deal. I mean, getting 2 1/1 tokens isn't terrible, but at the cost of attacking with vampires that are really not that powerful. They don't have any other keywords, so a little confused. It already has the restriction of only giving you the token whenever 1 or more creatures attack, so it's not necessarily an abuse of attack triggers or anything like that. It's just they thought it was going to be a lot better than it really is. It's not that good, so I don't really like him as legendary. However, as one of the 99, I definitely think anytime you can get tokens just for attacking is pretty decent, so I would consider him as one of the 99 in Commander, and maybe a consideration in Standard, who knows. Then we have Sanctum Seeker, which is just brutality. This card is just insane, and most likely going to see Standard play along with Commander play. Anytime you can drain your opponent and gain life in return is always going to see play in Standard, especially when it's on a creature as well. You pair this with the token strategy that's more than likely going to have some sort of impact on the format, and you're just going to get so many easy wins off of draining life and gaining life. Look at Siege Rhinos, look at Grey Merchant of Asphodel. Anytime you can have a huge point life swing, it's going to allow you to win a lot more games. And I absolutely love him in Commander. Definitely think he's going to be a powerhouse, especially when you have a super aggressive commander like Edgar Markov, just getting out hasty vampires and attacking with all your 1/1 tokens you're getting off of his Eminence trigger. That's going to be awesome. And then we get on to the last one here, which is Vana, Butcher of Mcgann, which is yet another legendary. But this dude's pretty cool because you can tap him and pay 7 life to destroy target non-land permanent, but you can only do this during your turn, which is a huge drawback. The upside, though, is that even though you do pay 7 life to activate that ability, he also has Vigilance and Lifelink. So you can attack with him first, and then, following up with that, you can then tap him and then pay the 7 life to destroy whatever you want to do. I apologize, guys. I don't know if you can hear this right now. There's a fucking bird outside, and it's making a ton of noise, pissing me off, making it hard for me to do my videos. Let me just get back into this now. Yeah, you can pay 7 life to destroy target non-land permanent. You can only do it during your turn, so it's kind of a pain in the ass. You really want to swing in there first with Vigilance and Lifelink, so that's a good thing. It's 4/4, so it's fucking bird. I mean, for 5 mana, I definitely like it. I think it's playable in Standard. Vampires typically have some sort of lifelink strategy associated with it, or some sort of sub-theme of lifelink, so it shouldn't be too hard paying the life just to destroy a target non-land permanent. It's a pretty good trade. Damn it. Chose the wrong fucking time to record. This fucking bird. He's also a legendary, which is pretty cool, so he could be a commander option if you want to play black-white vampires instead of Edgar Markov's Mardu. But other than that, I think it's going to be a stretch a little bit for Standard, but I should definitely see some commander play. But anyway, guys, that's it for the vampires from Ixalan, or Ixalan, or however you prefer to pronounce it. Definitely some cool options. I think white vampires is something we desperately needed. Anyway, guys, you all have a wonderful day. Void here, signing off.